We are back with another MyTeam video, and today we are going to take on the Hungarian Grand Prix. After this one, we will be at the halfway stage of MyTeam Season 3. So can we still win this championship? We need to wait to see what will happen in the second half of the season. But first we'll need to do some secondary sponsors, and after a few minutes of deciding which sponsors I should go for, I decided to go with the same one as I had before, so nothing changes there. They are still not available on my car. I don't know why, it's just a problem with delivery. But as we are in our upgrade facility, you can see that I'm going for one single upgrade because we only have 2.2k points, and that's just enough for an ultimate weight reduction upgrade for the Belgian Grand Prix. Of course, we have to rush it, so there's a 35% failure. But we need to take the risk to win this championship. Quality time, and it's time for, of course, the Hungarian Grand Prix. We are finally in the weekend. And as you can see, we are getting our tires up to temperature. And one of the most important parts at this circuit is that you don't run wide in turn 3, because I noticed that you lose lots and lots of time there. And of course, at the turn where I just was, I think it's turn 6, turn 7, you can lose the rear end very often there. So I don't want that to happen, as we are still in our banker run for Q1. So don't worry if you see a bit of mistakes here and there. We are still trying to get up to speed on this track, as it's been a season since we've been here. Of course, Kevin Magnussen puts in the fastest lap. Excuse me. I think a lot of drivers still need to make their way onto the track to get themselves on the board, as we go P4, 1.4 seconds off Magnussen. And you can see even Perez was slower than Magnussen, so we are going for a second run immediately after the first one, and we are trying to improve as much as possible so that maybe we don't have to use a second set. But here at the end of the lap we are up by 1 second, so we are trying to improve as much as possible. So you can see that first run just wasn't good enough. It was far from good, as we are behind Albon and Stroll. So you notice that if you are behind those two, then you are behind everybody. As we shoot up to P5. At the end it's only P12, so we need to go out again. And my teammate is in the garage just waiting till the session is over, because he is in the top 3 at the moment, and then he doesn't have to go for it. He knows that he's safe, but we'll need to see what we can do. And we make up 1/10 in the first corner, so that's great to see, as we are now with qualifying complete here in Q1. Still Q2 and Q3 to go to, but we'll need to wait to see if we can actually go to there, if we're even fast enough. But at the moment it looks good. We are up by half a second, and we are 3/10 faster than Liam Lawson. He is currently in P13, drops down to P14. We are at the start-finish straight, and we move up to P10. So we are through to the second part of qualifying. So yeah, let's take a look at the results then. Of course, P10 is good for us in Q1 because we still need to get up to speed. You can see my teammate only 3/10 away from this provisional pole, and we are 7/10 away. No surprises this time. No Fernando Alonso, who goes out in Q1. So yeah, that's unfortunate for us, but we'll need to move on to the second part of qualifying. And as you can see, it's starting to rain in just 5 minutes time, so I want to go out as quickly as possible, because otherwise we will not get a chance to set a good time, because of course it will rain. So I go out as a third person. I think it's Liam Lawson and Charles Clare who are ahead of me, so they will probably go through as well. Or maybe if the rain just waits a bit longer, then everybody can set a time, and we'll need to do a very good job, as we are trying to go as fast as possible in this one and only lap that we've got, because in the next lap it will probably start to rain. And I made a few mistakes, so I don't actually know if I will get through, but we'll need to wait for that, as my teammate is out of track as well, which is really great, because otherwise he would have a really difficult job at getting up into the top 10 as we cross the line and go P2. It was Ocon actually, not Liam Lawson. So Ocon, who was also in one of the first to go out, but he is not in the top 10. It's actually P11 for him, as the rain has started after we set our first lap, and you can see P6 is for us. So we are through to Q3. Fernando Alonso was actually nearly knocked out by Ocon, just 25 thousandths of a second. But here we are now in the final part of qualifying. You can see P7 at the moment. I did a bank run, but I didn't care to show because it just wasn't important to the video. So as you can see, 1.5 minutes remaining. Everybody's already starting their final lap. And now we are doing that as well. 22 seconds on the clock. And we are starting our final lap. P7, can we go up or will we go down? That's the question that we'll get the answer to in just a second. First corner, not the best entry, but we'll get a better exit. And we are up by half a tenth at the moment. Through the chicane, yeah, we go and we make a mistake, but still we improve on our previous lap. So you can see 6 tenths up right now. 2.5 minutes before we will need to set our lap. But of course we will not do that long at a lap at the Hungary ring. Of course it's not a long lap. So as you can see now, final corner, 7 tenths, maybe even 8 tenths improvement. And that shoots us up to P4. So we are starting in P4. Of course, we will only start in P4 if nobody else has a penalty. Maybe someone else has a penalty. So then maybe we can start on the front row. But you can see Carlos Sainz takes pole position in the Hungarian Grand Prix. Sergio Perez is in P2, and we set equal times to Charles Leclerc. If we set it just a bit earlier, then we would have been in P3. But P4 is still amazing. So yeah, not that much to say. Let's go into the race.
Welcome to Budapest once again for another round of Formula One action. Historically, a good race for first-time victories, with Button, Hill, Alonso and Heikki Kovalainen all reaching the top step of the podium for the very first time right here. Located 12 miles northeast of the Hungarian capital Budapest, the 14 corners of the Hungaro Ring are steeped in history and prestige. Overtaking's always been difficult on this technical 2.7-mile track, but the last few years in particular have turned up some exceptional races. So let's hope we're in for another one here today. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. An immense lap from Carlos Sainz yesterday puts him in pole position. Sergio Perez lines up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Leclerc, the engineer, Daniel Ricciardo and Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, Hamilton, Ticktum and Liam Lawson, Ocon, Gasly, Alex Albon and Russell, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Guan Yu Zhou and Robert Schwartzman, Stroll, Mick Schumacher, Latifi and Lando Norris starts from the back of the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. And with me today, of course, is Natalie Pinkham. Let's talk about the engineer. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, they've been avoiding mistakes and have had solid pace, so it's been a good season so far. But whether they can keep that up long term remains to be seen.
This track is really difficult to overtake, so maybe if we are in a DRS train, then we will get early into the pit so that we can undercut a few people and get a few positions for free. But we'll need to wait for that until we are in the Grand Prix itself, as the last guys are getting up to their position to start this Grand Prix. And of course, we will need to see how good our start is, because we are not the best starters. But here we go, 3, 4, 5 lights, and it's lights out and away we go. Not the best start, still a good getaway, but the second phase of the start wasn't that good. If you want to get a good start, then go check out my video on how to start in F1 22. As we are going 4 wide into turn 1, this is unbelievable, never seen before. And we are getting out ahead of everybody. Of course, we started in P4, still P6 at the moment. But yeah, we will need to overtake Verstappen and Ricciardo to get ourselves up into P4 once again. But as I said before, it's really difficult to overtake here, so maybe we won't even get up to P4 because we just can't overtake these guys. The straight is not that long, which means that it's really difficult to overtake. And of course, Sector 2 and Sector 3 are both very difficult to get side by side, because you are still in just a one. You can just go through there in one line, and otherwise you will lose time massively, and you will get the risk of losing a position yourself. As there's a yellow flag, who is out? It looks like Dan Ticktum, because the gap is almost 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds. Yes, Dan Ticktum is out of the Hungarian Grand Prix. The first victim of an engine failure is already here. Color Science puts in a 1:18.0. We put in a 1:19.1. So we are 1 second off the pace at the moment. But can we improve? I do think so, as we are now in clean air. And you can see the gap behind, 1.5 seconds going into lap 4. The gap ahead, 2 seconds. And George Russell, who started on the softs, is now the fastest man on the track. So they are catching up. And I need to try and improve. You can see a 1:18.7 is now my fastest lap, as the gap is still 2.5 seconds up ahead. Lap 5, already 4 laps done. Into the 5th we already went. So yeah, you can see it's really difficult to even try and catch up with these guys, because they have DRS and that helps them just a little bit, and you don't lose that much time being behind another driver. Of course, if you're a lot faster than them, then you will lose time. But it looks like now at the moment they don't lose any time at all. I lose time on myself to the Mercedes guys, as they are now inside that 1 second gap. They are flirting with the 1 second gap, as they are now once again out of it. And you can see on the minimap that Carlos Sainz is leading with a few seconds. So that's great to see that our teammate is at the lead of this Grand Prix. Of course, he started on pole position, so he does have the pace here, but we'll need to get a good strategy for him as well, because otherwise he will lose so many positions, and that's not what we want. We want to get up as high as possible in the constructors, and we can do that if our team doesn't give us a good strategy. Of course, we can change the strategy for ourselves, but not for our teammate as we go wide here. I prefer to go a bit wider than usual, because otherwise I tend to get too close to the inside and spin around. So I don't want to do that, as we are starting to catch up to Verstappen and Ricciardo once again. The gap is down to 2 seconds, but can we close it up even more? We are already in lap 13. You can see laps go by one after the other, as there's the yellow flag and Sergio Perez out of the race. So that means that right now Daniel Ricciardo is on the podium and we are up to P5. That's great for us. That's a few extra points and a Red Bull less on the circuit. And as you can see, we are almost going into the pits. Not this lap, just in a few laps time. I think it's lap 16 that we need to get into the pits and change to hard tires. Of course, 2 drivers already out of this race and no safety car yet. So there's probably not going to be a safety car, or there has to be a major crash. But I don't see that happening, as everybody is still behind each other. George Russell has been into the pits, so he is now behind an AlphaTauri. And we are still waiting for our pit window to open and get ourselves into the pits for hard tires. But you can see the gap to Verstappen up ahead is only 1.1 seconds, almost inside the DRS zone, but we're just not there yet. We need to get ourselves into that 1 second gap to maybe try and overtake him in the pits. If he goes longer, then we get DRS coming out of the pits, so that would be great, as we are now into the pits. And Verstappen is into it as well. Hamilton, is he going in? As we have a moment coming into the pits. A perfect pit entry, so we don't lose any time that Hamilton goes through. And as you can see, we get a good pit stop, but they don't let us go. We need to wait half a second to a second longer than we should have. And that has cost us probably a position to show Guan Yu. But of course, he has to go into the pits as well. Fernando Alonso now in P11 behind us, and he is on the mediums. He had some kind of damage because he went into the pits in lap 2 or lap 3, somewhere around that. And now at the moment my teammate is into the pits. What will happen to him? Can he get a good pit stop compared to us? Of course, if you get a good pit stop, that would be great. As you can see now, the pit stop for my teammate, in he goes. And it looks like there's a problem with the left rear tire. Oh no. He does lose time to it, but does he lose positions? Yes, he does. He loses out to, I think, the McLaren and the Ferrari. And through goes George Russell as well. George Russell is at the moment leading the Grand Prix. And because it's a track that is really difficult to overtake, he's probably going to win this Grand Prix. Of course, there are still, I think, 18 laps to go, 17 laps to go, something like that. and we are now in P7 behind Hamilton. So we've lost a lot of time in the pit stop phase, and the same has our teammate. As you can see, we are still trying to get our tires up to temperature. It was really difficult to keep them up to temperature because, yeah, I don't know. It just felt like I didn't have the grip that I wanted, so that meant that I couldn't go as fast as I wanted because I didn't trust it 100%. But yeah, you can see going deep into this third corner, it doesn't really help at all. And you lose lots and lots of time. You can see we are now outside 1 second of Lewis Hamilton. Gasly is now the driver behind us, and it's a massive gap to win, 17 seconds. So it looks like we are once again back in, I think, 2018, 2019, where there were just 2 or 3 top teams who are far ahead of the other teams, and that looks like we are now one of those teams. As you can see, we've closed up to Hamilton, to Sainz, to Verstappen, and to Daniel Ricciardo, who is currently on the podium, as we are going to try and overtake Lewis Hamilton. Can we do it going down the inside? Yes, we can, and we have a lot of damage on the side of our car. Luckily, that doesn't affect it. That doesn't affect our car at all. Look, if it was real life, of course, we would have lost a few tenths per lap, but luckily that's not the case here. We do not have that realistic hand modeling for the damage. So yeah, that's good for us, because otherwise we would have lost so much time. We are now behind our teammate, and Fernando Alonso has just put in the fastest lap, a 1:17.1, half a second faster than us. But of course we are trying to gain more points by overtaking people, and that's not what Fernando Alonso is doing. He is outside the top 10. He's probably in not lap 13, position 13, P13, as we are going down the inside of our teammate. Can we do it right here? No, we can't. We have to wait a bit longer. A love tap, luckily no damage. It's simulation damage. So I was surprised that I didn't get damage there, but luckily I didn't, because otherwise I would have I would need to pit. But we are now going to overtake our teammate into sector 2 we go, and we are up into P5. Can we gain even more positions? 10 laps remaining. We are in lap 26 of 35, and we still have a few positions to go to get up to the podium. Of course, we got 2 wins in a row in Great Britain and in Austria, but we did have a or not a DRS failure, a engine failure in the French Grand Prix. So let's see what we can do. It's still a good Grand Prix, starting in P4, one of our best starts ever, or our best qualis ever, I should say, as we are now really close behind Verstappen. But the problem is he is getting tagged along with Daniel Ricciardo, so we can't really put the move on him. I want to overtake him, but it's just impossible, because we are using ERS, we are using DRS, but it looks like we are not closing in on him at all. And now in lap 30 we are still behind him, so maybe we won't even get up to P4 where we started. We need to wait to get ourselves one good opportunity to try and overtake Verstappen. Maybe it's going to be easier with Daniel Ricciardo because he doesn't have DRS, but still it's going to be really difficult to even get to that point. Only 5 laps remaining. We are almost at the end of this Grand Prix already, and you can see in the just at the MFD, you can see that our engine is worn. One component is more than 60%. As we go down the inside of Verstappen, finally we can overtake him, and now we need to close the gap to Daniel Ricciardo to try and overtake him for a podium. That would be really good for us, as Leclerc is in P2 and he is one of the title contenders for this year. So I want to get ahead of as many people as possible to gain points on them, not lose any. But of course we'll need to see what will happen. Of course we can still spin, it can all happen. You know, I'm not the best driver in the world, so I will probably get a spin in one of the next episodes because I just forget how to drive. But now you can see lap 33, we are closing up to Daniel Ricciardo and we try to go for an overtake. But I locked up, which meant that I couldn't do anything about it, and that was probably our only chance that we've got at Daniel Ricciardo. Of course, still next lap is also an opportunity for us, but we'll need to see what will happen there. Of course, Daniel Ricciardo, not the worst driver, he does know how to defend, and we are just not even close to him. I think we had a bad exit out of the last turn, but this means that we will probably not overtake him. Still, the penultimate lap is still one chance that we get in the next lap, because throughout the whole lap you can't overtake until at the very end of the lap, until you get on the start finish straight. But if you do that on the last lap, then you don't get any time at all. And it looks like at the moment 6-10 between us and Ricciardo. Verstappen has dropped out of the DRS zone, so maybe my teammate can overtake him as well. But we are still behind Daniel Ricciardo. Can we overtake him on the last opportunity that we will get? Or is it going to be P4? Starting in P4, finishing in P4. It's not bad at all. But we will need to gain points on everybody. And that's not possible if we only finish in P4. We are getting closer to Daniel Ricciardo one final time. But unfortunately, it's not enough to overtake him here. Can we maybe go around the outside in turn 3? It doesn't look like it. We are still behind him. And no, we are not overtaking Daniel Ricciardo. Maybe we can find an opportunity somewhere else. But it doesn't look like it, as Daniel Ricciardo is just better in the second sector. And as you can see, we are still 4 times behind him, but that's not close enough to try and overtake him somewhere. Not close enough to force an error on him. So it doesn't look like we are going to take a podium in this race. But still, P4 is great for the team. It's 12 points for me and 8 points for my teammate. It's George Russell who is going to win this race as we round the final corner. George Russell takes the win here in Hungary. Charles Leclerc takes P2, and it's Daniel Ricciardo who takes P3 and finishes off the podium. We finish in P4. Still great for the team, but not what we've wanted. We wanted a podium and a win for our teammates, but that didn't happen, of course, because we had a difficult pit stop. But that's unfortunately how it goes.
There'll be smiles at the factory after that one. A great race and a real team performance to take victory here in Hungary. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, this was won through an abundance of speed and skillful overtakes. Inside, outside, cutting underneath. We saw it all today, and it's really nice to see a Grand Prix won in that manner. A race to satisfy the purists today, I think.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it.
So you can see the podium once again. George Russell is on top, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2, Daniel Ricciardo in P3, and that's the podium. So yeah, not the worst race for us, still a good amount of points. We are still getting better. We have an ultimate upgrade for the next race. So maybe that we can win the Belgian Grand Prix. That would be amazing, because it's my home Grand Prix. But that's only something for the next episode as we take a look at the results. And as you can see, we finish in P4, Verstappen in P5, Sainz in P6, Lewis Hamilton in P7. And Fernando Alonso got back up to P8 after doing a 2-stop. So yeah, not the best strategy for Ferrari, of course. Still P2 for them. It's better than we did today. So yeah, as you can see, Ocon and Liam Lawson are the final couple who try to fight for the points. Kevin Magnussen got the fastest lap of the race in the end, and we are on 101 points. Still 28 points behind Leclerc, 21 points behind Verstappen, and Carlos Sainz is 52 points behind everybody. So yeah, as you can see, 29 points to Ferrari in the constructor standings, but there's still a long way to go. As we are only at a halfway point, and what that means is that we need to get a new contract renewal. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. We do not have enough money. We do not have enough money to hold on to our teammates. This is the worst. This is the worst that could happen. I wanted to hold on to Carlos Sainz for the rest of the season and the rest of the series even, but it doesn't look like it. Do you want to find out who we take as a new teammate? Then go and check out the next video. You will see it on your screen right now, or maybe it hasn't been uploaded yet. I want to thank you all for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, then please do like the video as well, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.